Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We've already finished with Kamoshida, and if that's a spoiler, why are you tuning in to part 10? So, train ride in Tokyo. Hashtag relatable. You know what else is hashtag relatable? This dialogue. Days off, it's a pain to get ready. I don't really like shopping much. I just wind up lazing around the house. Since I don't have a schedule.
Hey, I don't disagree. I do like almost all my shopping online.
Yeah, and it's like, I do the same, but it's like, I don't have a scheduled job. I don't wind up driving away from the house all too often. So yeah, my day kind of does sort of bleed into me just being lazy around the house when I'm not doing any work, or when I'm waiting for the computer to do work for me because it's rendering time. So, yeah, that's relatable, lady. I feel you there. Sort of.
Morning.
Except I don't exactly have days off. I just have days where I have more free time than I usually do. This is also relatable. Ran out without eating breakfast.
You mean you're not running, on a fairly empty street with a piece of toast in your mouth on the first day of school because you're late?
Yeah. What I would often wind up doing when I was in high school is I had like the most small, unsatisfying breakfast of cereal before I left the house, and then I would be hungry by the time I got to school, so I'd use my lunch money on a bagel. And he's about to buy some bread at the school store, so yes, this is double relatable to me.
Lewis is Ryuji confirmed.
But then since I didn't have lunch money anymore, because
You didn't have lunch.
I didn't have lunch yet. So it's all just like
You'd
a damned
starve.
if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. And I'm just horrible at waiting. So yeah.
Every time I was heading to high school, I always get on the school bus with a granola bar in hand, and people always made comments of that. They're like, oh, you with the granola bar again.
Yeah, and this is, the name of the game, this part, is hashtag relatable. In fact, I think I'm going to make that the title of this part when I upload it. Because, like, this is just the calm after the storm. Because there is nothing more satisfying when you're playing a Persona game than finishing the boss with just a fuckload of time between you and the deadline, so you can just chill and social link and go work at the convenience store.
And that's usually my strategy for tackling each of the palaces. It's just much more efficient.
I always finish the boss with tons of time to spare, and then I just don't do any magical bullshit at all for a month. And it sounds boring if you haven't played it, but there's just something satisfying enough about it that feeds into the addictive nature of a Persona's schedule system and the time management and going to social link. And for some people, I suppose that is boring when you get down to it. But at the same time, if it's your type of game, you'll really feel that the rewarding feel of that. I'm bad at wording things unscripted, I'm sorry. But you know what I mean. And hey, this is an actual question that an actual non-Japanese person might actually know. Because it's just Greek history or Roman history. I forget which one Nero is, and I'm not paying attention.
Romans, I believe.
Romans, yeah. Roman history. I'm sorry, when I think Nero, the first thing I think about is Devil May Cry, and the second thing I think about is that...
Of course.
is that fucking disk burning software, which was actually named Nero because of the historical fact that, I forget, was it like... It had something to do with a fire. I don't study much. You see this personality point scale thing with the star all filled out? I'm probably more like what it looks like at the beginning of the game.
So your maxed out stats aren't hashtag relatable after all.
No, they're not. They really are not.
You're not perfect like protagonists here.
Like, whenever someone talks backhandedly about the Persona series, they talk about how perfect and multi-talented the protagonist is, as if it's impossible, but you really actually do have to earn that multi-talented part, because you start out pretty shitty at everything, and it's up to you to build those skills throughout the game, so you do kind of feel like you earn your Gary Stu status by the end of the game, assuming you put the time in for that. Yeah, this is a scene that plays regardless of what day it's on the calendar day after you finish the boss fight. And this is also the scene where Kawakami actually sort of earned a spot in my good books for the first time, because this is something that she didn't have to do. She actually tells you what's happening with Kamoshida, even though it's technically none of her students' business. And it's only retroactively after playing the game and finishing her confidant ranks that I realized this is her sort of suppressed concern for her students showing through. Because even though she whines a lot, she actually is a very good teacher and a very responsible adult who wants to look out for her students, but hasn't been doing so.
Yeah, if you go through it, you realize that she's just kind of stuck in a sucky position between the principal and Kamoshida.
Between the principal and Kamoshida and the two other people who are blackmailing her for reasons we will find out later. Also her own guilt, because she hasn't worked past that yet either.
Guilt? Oh no, she's infected!
What? I don't get it.
The Trauma Team series, that's also published by Atlas.
Oh.
In one of the games, the big super virus thing was called Guilt.
Right, I should probably know that, but there's just the small problem of I've never actually personally played the Trauma Center games.
Yeah, so now in my head canon, Kawakami is infected by guilt.
Okay.
How lovely.
Sure. So instead of changing someone else's heart, we just sort of do a weird operation on her.
Why not? Why not? We're perfect at everything.
Because apparently surgery can heal viruses, I guess.
Yep, that's how it works in the Trauma Team.
God. That game is dumb and I love it, and I kind of really want to play it someday.
Well, that's why everyone loves it, because it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's right up there with Phoenix Wright for me in the sense that it's a game that I really want to play. It's based on a weird premise, and it's mostly visual novel based, which is probably why I haven't gotten around to it yet. I enjoy a visual novel when I'm in the mood for it, but it's not my genre of choice.
Isn't the localization for those games also sort of weird, like Phoenix Wright?
Yes, it is. It takes place in Japanifornia.
San Fran, Tokyo?
Yeah.
Japanifornia. We battle construction vehicles now.
I mean, both places are roughly the same size.
But it's a weird thing about Atlas is that like they still localize stuff in weird ways. They just sort of gave up doing that with Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, because they realized these are a bit too Japanese, you know?
And I think they realized also that their market wants the Japanese parts of it.
Yeah, at least for these series.
Yeah.
But, it was like, they were trying for a while, but it didn't work out. And then they sort of half-assed it a little with Persona 2, where they acknowledged the localization choices they made in the first game, but didn't continue to pretend that it was not a Japanese city anymore. So, and that worked out reasonably well. But then Persona 3 happened. It's like, okay, we're working on an actual Japanese day-to-day schedule. We can't pretend this is not Japan anymore. We just can't. This game will not allow us to. So they didn't even try, and it worked out wonderfully. Still a little awkward in places, but it worked out for the best.
You ever wonder if, like, Persona 6 should actually, like, try and go away from the Japanese setting? Like, maybe do a high school game in, like, America or something.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
It's funny you bring that up, because before recent tragedies that happened in Japan, they were going to have this sort of worldwide backpacking trip as the premise for their game, but decided after that they should focus on Japanese society more closely in order to, just because of the times.
Yeah.
Because there's this feeling that the country is going to shit. This is the only time calm down is probably the right answer, by the way. And I find that it's always the wrong answer when it's just the words calm down, like Kurusu is insincere about it or something. But But yeah, worldwide backpacking trip. I'd like to see them bring that concept back for Persona 6, possibly.
Backpack, or as Clement was getting at, in a more Western style one. I think that would be an interesting kind of twist on what they were doing with this.
Maybe, yeah, and they've gotten so wrapped up in Japanese society in this game in particular that I don't really feel like there's anything more to tell as far as stories go, at least for now. Like,
unless there's like some weird major societal upheaval.
Yeah, give it another decade or two, society will have changed and evolved to a point where there's more stories to tell. But they get really into it in this game, and I think they've, for now, exhausted their well of ideas for that. And it's probably a good idea to get out into the rest of the world anyway, because at this point they've also explored the concept of personas and shadows to a point where there's not much to tell as far as Japan goes. With that, getting out into the rest of the world and showing what might be going on with this kind of weird-ass phenomena elsewhere would be really cool and would give them some flexibility to bring some new ideas into the series, both gameplay-wise and story-wise.
Those are free, Atlas.
Anyway, yeah, Ryuji has ranked up and learned the follow-up ability. This is a handy ability, but not as useful as Baton Pass, because it's one of the random abilities that they started to introduce as social link bonuses in Persona 4 Golden. This one in particular triggers sometimes when you do a physical attack that does not knock your enemy down. In other words, when you do a physical attack and aren't attacking something that's weak to physical skills or don't score a critical hit. What will happen is the character will ask if you want them to do a follow-up, and if you have them do a follow-up, they will do a special attack, and most of the time these special attacks have the effect of knocking the enemy down anyway, so it's usually a pretty good idea.
If nothing else, it's a free hit, so...
Yeah. However, there is another version of this ability that you get at a higher rank, which does basically the same thing, except when the specific character who's asking isn't in your active party. The idea, as I understand it, is that the more social link abilities that you unlock with follow-ups and reserve party follow-ups, whatever, I forget what they're called, the more of those you unlock, the higher the likelihood of this happening in battle becomes. So it's actually a good idea to social link with your entire party, all of the members, as far up as you can get by the end of the game to boost the odds of it happening. Frankly. By the end of the game, it happens all the goddamn time. And there are other abilities you get by ranking up your party members, like sometimes, like there's a random chance ability that causes them to give your character a good slap with a paper fan, oddly enough, in order to cure them of any status ailment they might have on a particular turn. And like I said, it's a random chance thing, but it saves you items and it saves you the trouble of using spells, and since there are some pretty goddamn nasty status ailments in this goddamn game, you'll want those abilities in particular.
Yeah. Plus you got like Futaba, who has all these different perks when you advance her social link. There's the Shinya kid at the arcade who will teach you how to unload a whole bunch of bullets as soon as the fight starts up. So there's a lot of bonus things. By the end of the game, you can have all of these like run-ins, all of these preemptive strike things that are happening, all these status buffs that happen to you because of Futaba. It can get pretty busy at the very end of the game.
Yeah, but one thing I will say is that it never breaks the game the way that Persona 4 Golden did. I mean,
oh, no.
Futaba has all these random buffs that she can cast on your party throughout battle, and they did the same thing with Rise in Golden, but it's like the game wasn't designed to account for those random buffs at all. So it just feels like you're getting free heat risers all the time, and without the added time that it takes to cast those on yourself, it could just make certain battles pretty brain dead. Also, she had, I think, a higher frequency of that stuff happening than Futaba does, so it, I mean, sometimes Futaba can do stuff just give you a small SP boost in the middle of a battle, and that kind of stuff doesn't really tip the individual battle in your favor, but if it happens in the middle of a dungeon, hey, it's a nice bonus. You get to go on a little bit longer.
Anything helps.
Anything helps, indeed. Anyway, yeah, now that we're in this calm after the storm portion of the game, we can get into some other stuff that...
Like talking with Sojiro.
Yeah, talking with Sojiro. And since I maxed out Sojiro's social link thing by the end of my first playthrough. Just starting this actually gets me the ability to make all of the best coffee and curry. But yeah, as you level up Sojiro's social link, starting from rank 2 onward, you start to be able to make coffee items, and then make curry items later on. Coffee items restore SP to a single character, curry items restore SP to an entire group. So, in a New Game Plus, you're probably going to make curry more often than coffee, but it's good to make both of them. One of the things about curry is that it brings back a mechanic of sorts from Persona 4, where sometimes you could check the fridge and there would be ingredients for lunch that you could make and then share with a social link character the next day at school. It happened very rarely in Persona 4, though. It seems like since I started this game, there are always ingredients in the refrigerator whenever I bother to check for them. Like, they might have paced out the days when there are spare ingredients in the refrigerator to, like, perfectly match up with all the days when there aren't really all that many social link things to do at night. So you can make a good deal of curry if you take advantage of that. And since I've maxed out Sojiro's Confidant in the previous playthrough, I get to make the highest grade curry and coffee that restores the highest level of SP. So by the time I actually need to start using this again, I'll probably have so much of it that I don't ever need to make any more. But by the end of the game, between the coffee, the curry, and the goddamn gardening mechanic, you can make a ridiculous amount of SP recovery items. It's magical. You never have this kind of stuff in the other games.
It's a very easy way to get stuff you can use late in the game, early on. So even if you don't use it in earlier palaces, you could just stockpile them for later in the game.
It's kind of beneficial to the overall design of the game, because they were able to design the game under the assumption that you'll probably have at least some of this crap. They made the later dungeons in the game a bit harder than the later dungeons in Persona 4. So you actually do feel quite a bit more pressure from the long haul of those dungeons than you would in Persona 4, where things got, frankly, a bit too easy because they didn't want you to spend too much time going back and forth between the real world and the dungeon. They wanted it to be feasible for you to finish the thing in your first go at the dungeon. But yeah, Sojiro has Detective Dojima's Confidant Arcana, and is just nerdier about his coffee. Dojima's first social link event had to do with coffee.
You mean it's not about those cute little ice cream things they sell down at Juna's?
I have no idea where Hi, I'm Daisy got that particular joke. I don't know. Because Dojima, I don't think, has anything to do with ice cream in the game. So I think he was just Hi, I'm Daisy just pulled that one out to make fun of Dojima not being there, but also never really doing anything where you could see him that seemed to be legitimate police work.
Yay, Sunday!
The TV shopping show.
Now, at first, I was disappointed that the TV shopping show did not have our old series mainstay, Mr. Tanaka.
I know, that disappointed me.
Hi there, how y'all doing down here at the Bounty Hunters Network?
But then, you can get a laptop computer later on in the game and repair it. And you find out that Tanaka has moved on to shady internet dealings. He runs a shopping website now. He's moving up in the world.
He's moving on forward with the 21st century.
I think he calls it Tanaka's Shady Commodities now.
Yeah.
And by shady, he means he wears sunglasses in his portrait now. So,
Ha!
Yeah.
Ha! Puns.
Puns. Japan likes puns. And sometimes that love of puns comes out in American translations. Sometimes in really horrible ways, but other times it works. Woo.
I mean, I have $670.
I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't make fun of the Führer when you found him with his sunglasses on, though. Like if they had worked some joke in about the censored version of Hitler in the PSP Persona 2 release, that would have made my day. Would have made my week.
Okay.
Anyway, I talked to Morgana a few times throughout this part, only to realize that he really has nothing interesting to say after you beat the boss. He'll just say the same thing every time you talk to him. Oh, hey, it's Film Brain. Hi. Uh-huh. This guy annoys me. Like, he's this really high and mighty guy who claims to be a film critic and really talks himself up every now and then. Ugh.
He's probably just a guy who writes a blog.
Yeah, he probably is. But he's like, I'm such a deep thinker. Okay, dude, I take some pride in the opinions I've managed to form over the years. Like, sometimes I think I have some good ideas, but, dude, don't toot your own horn that way. Come on. It's probably just a matter of good luck when you have a good opinion. Like, hey, your brain managed to hit upon the magic formula by sheer chance. Like, you know, that's your idea, and be happy with it, but it's probably not because you're anything special.
You sure it's your own idea and that Leo DiCaprio didn't go into your dream 4 times over and implant the idea?
That's another reference that I don't get. See, I'm not a
Inception.
Inception? I haven't watched it. Even once. In fact, hearing about it everywhere just makes me not want to bother.
It's a good movie, I just think a lot of people kind of over-talked it.
It's why you hear all the bwah sounds in movie trailers now.
It's also what popularized the Nolan bwah. Except in there, it actually serves a purpose.
It was the Christopher Nolan movie that came out after The Dark Knight, so of course people were excited for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Anyway, I can't travel to the Velvet Room, so I just traveled to the gun shop so that I could walk out the front door. Sometimes fast travel makes no sense in this game. It's like, oh, I walked in the wrong door. I meant to go next door, but there's nothing next door. Well, I still meant to go there.
And considering we had a cutscene where we went into the Velvet Room in this alleyway, you would have figured the travel spot would have shown up by now, but...
Anyway, I came into the Velvet Room to do exactly one thing, and that's withdraw 2 specific personas. I would have withdrawn 3, but I don't have any extra spaces for it. The first one is Bareth, who I probably shouldn't have discarded while I still had him. And the second one is Thanatos. But I'm only getting Thanatos because he doesn't cost anything to get the first time you buy him, and I need a persona that's of the Death Arcana. The reason I'm doing this, and I usually wind up going to the Velvet Room to do this in between plot dungeons, is when you have a persona of an arcana that matches the social links that you're going to pursue, and this is true in 3 and 4 as well, if you have those personas, you get bonus points for everything that you do with a social link that would get you points. Basically, just add 1 point onto whatever bonus points you got for anything, and it speeds up social link gains pretty quickly. I mean, this isn't as big a deal in Persona 5 as it is in the others because the Fortune Confidant unlocks the fortune-telling thing that lets you actually do that without spending any time. You can go get that reading done once per day and get bonus points with any social link that you want. But during the early portions of the game where you don't have that, you probably do want to pay more attention to this. It's also important for Sojiro in particular, because Sojiro, between ranks 2 and 3, or 3 and 4, somewhere around there, he just has this ridiculously long social link gap where you need a fuck ton of points to get the next rank, so you have to spend a lot of time just hanging out with him and doing fuck all. And
Yeah.
That's annoying, but I get why they did it, because the entire point of the early ranks between Sojiro and the main character is that there's this distance between them and they need to close that distance. And that's not something that's going to happen just over a couple of days. So yeah. Anyway, it's time to spend some time at the Takamedics,
It's time to do drugs.
Yeah, time to take some questionably legal drugs.
I don't know, that just looks like blueberry juice to me.
Ah, the Skywalker's blue milk.
It's too dark blue to be that blue milk. It's blueberry juice. Really sour, rancid blueberry juice, the kind that Ashens would drink on his channel. And yes, I keep bringing him up, but he's the only channel that I watch that does that kind of thing, so fuck it. I passed out! How is that absolutely perfect? Are you trying to kill the patient?
Special components.
Takemi, who are you giving this to? Should I be calling the cops?
Oh, it's funny that you mentioned the cops, because that's going to be like one of those speak of the devil and he shall appear moments in just a few seconds. Whew. Motor skill tests, you say? Oh boy. I don't think I'm up for that right now.
Might be hard to do when you're passed out.
On the bright side, once I'm able to drink, I won't get blackout drunk.
I think there's one point where, I don't know if she's already done this, but I think there's one point where she literally tells you that you don't remember half of the clinical trial. Middle of an examination. Yeah, I guess that's what we can call this an examination.
You've been getting reports that you've been drugging high school students?
Anyway, yeah, this is amusing because Takemi hasn't had any patients today apart from the main character. So when this guy asks for full medical records, she's just like, yeah, okay, it's right here on my screen. Take a look. That's all I've got today. My practice has been kind of slow.
You've been getting reports on weird progress, so you were saying you've actually been seeing and noticing illegal practices in this medical facility. No, we're just reporting on them.
I like how Takemi is super chill, by the way. She's just like, yeah, you're being had. Someone's harassing me by giving you false reports. And she even says who did it, too. She just gives no fucks at this point. Which is unfortunate from a character perspective, but also kind of funny when you're actually watching it. I kind of, in my head canon, Takemi is just sort of a female version of Dr. House.
Takemi, MD.
Now, Kurisu, just make sure, since you're on the drug, don't say or do anything. Runs around.
I need to pull out my my DVD collections of House MD sometime and rewatch those, because that is a great show.
It's been years since I've watched it.
I've got like the first 4 seasons, maybe the first 5 seasons, I forget. They're all in a cabinet somewhere.
I like one of the subtitles. We're on a date.
Yeah, I think this is the only option that will get you points, though. I'm not actually doing this blind. I have a cheat sheet for all of the social links open on the computer monitor next to me while I play. So, yeah. I am actually showing off the correct answers. I might have missed a few in Ryuji's rank too, I'm not really sure. But that's what I was doing for this part, and will be doing for all future parts. So yeah, you can take this as a bit of a social link guide, I suppose. But
if you're playing along, I suppose.
But only for the specific answers in the individual questions. I have no idea what the efficient order to do things are, what days to do these things on the calendar schedule in order to actually make sure that I get everything done in one school year. So
it may just I think people are still trying to figure out the most efficient route, but there are some generally good efficient routes out there on like GameFAQs and stuff.
Yeah, there's a guide that will get you all of the stuff in one fresh playthrough, and that's with the added problem of grinding up your social stats alongside all of the social linking that you're doing. So I probably will get all of the social links done, but we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. I'm still recording as we go.
Make sure you check all of Mishima's texts.
Why is that deal in sarcastic air quotes? Are you making fun of me? I mean, it was an actual deal that I made with you. There's no sarcasm to be found there. And why are you talking to me like this is some cheesy porn flick? I mean,
it's not?
She's the one sticking needles in me. That's backwards, okay? Death rank 2. I'm actually surprised that they made the death rank one of the earliest ones you get in this game, because that's sort of the inverse of what happens with the death rank in the other 2 games. The death rank is a special plot rank in Persona 3, and in Persona 4 it's this like old lady that you can't social link with until significantly later in the game. So yeah. But here it is, one of the first social links that you can get, and one of the ones that you'll probably max out pretty early on.
Well, it's the first one you get, so...
Yeah. The Death Tarot card, by the way, is often pretty misunderstood by people who don't know tarot cards. It's more about stagnation than actual death. So, yeah.
Which is actually worse.
Well, when you get into tarot card meetings, a lot of them just have more to do with stuff that goes on in your personal development than with literal concepts. So, it's interesting. I recommend everyone watching this do some at least basic level research on it.
Aren't there any honest politicians out there? No. Have you seen any?
I mean, some people backhandedly dismiss Persona as discount JoJo, but Persona actually, 4 and 5 in particular, actually do things with the concept of personas with arcana ties that I don't think JoJo itself actually does. It's more like a spin on the stands concept than a whole cloth ripoff of it.
And a lot less flamboyant posing.
Well, yeah, that too.
I'm guessing these stands in JoJo are like their psyche, their personality.
Their fighting spirit, or something like that. I haven't watched part 3 where I think they're introduced yet, because I actually do want to start JoJo from part 1.
It's easy, Ryuji. We just gotta believe.
Parappa the
Your
Rapper?
guitar is in your mind, etc., etc. But the JoJo is that series that I've researched enough about to know what's good about it, but I haven't actually watched from front to back. So it's a long one. It's intimidating shit. Okay.
It's up there with like One Piece and Conan and others. So just really long-running stuff that it's kind of hard to get into, even if you want to at this point.
But what sets Persona apart from that, particularly from 3 on up, is the relatability of the writing. And this is something that is not true of spin-offs. I will not say that the writing quality is as good in Persona 4 Arena or Persona Q or Dancing All Night, dear lord. But in the main series Persona games, 3, 4, 5 specifically, 1 and 2 had a different writing emphasis, so while the characters still have that quality to them, it's not really as pronounced. There's a lot of relatability in the writing, and it makes an Atlus, well, at least the A team that they have on their main Persona games, Atlus has a good talent for taking that mundanity of real life, weaving it into a magical story, and making it work. It's kind of the same sort of thing that makes Harry Potter such a fun story to read, you know?
Gonna make some curry of life!
It actually is curry of life when you use it. I mean, it doesn't heal you, but it restores your SP, and that means you can heal yourself again. So, yeah.
Curry of life!
Anyway, we get some interesting trivia about curry ingredients every time we make curry.
Same with coffee.
And this is even more interesting to me than coffee trivia, because I actually do want to learn how to make curry one of these days. I can't stand coffee. But, apples. Interesting. I would not have imagined that, so there you go.
Apples are kind of like that fruit that can go with like anything as long as you do it, right?
Yeah, but like the idea of putting fruit into a spicy food to balance the taste is something that I would not have thought of.
I mean, sort of related to this, but one of my friends puts sugar into a spaghetti sauce, and it just comes out really great, so nice stuff.
You'd be surprised the kind of weird ideas that could come out of cooking experimentation that just end up beautiful.
Well, that's usually how cooking goes. You just try everything until it works.
Until something sticks. Yeah, but once you have enough knowledge of cooking, you know individual ingredients and their qualities well enough that you have a good idea of what experiments are good ideas in the first place. So that's something that you can consider.
I just like that this is a carryover from Catherine, where every time you went to the bar and you got a drink, there was always this nice trivia about alcohol and stuff. And to have that with apples and curry and coffee and stuff, like I like that that's an aspect in Persona 5.
Can we turn on Iron Chef while we do it?
It's more interesting in this case, though, because in Catherine, you basically just went through you just went through clockwise through your wheel of 4 drinks every night at the bar and drank them all at least once so that you would get all of the trivia in one playthrough. Whereas in Persona 5, it's something that you have to actually optionally elect to do as something that you spend time on. And yeah, you can have Kawakami make coffee and curry for you, but you don't get the trivia when you do that. And like I said, the trivia actually plays into the crossword puzzle that you can also optionally do, so that's something. Yeah, well, apparently we're reading a really thin Lupin novel. Huh.
Well, we got it from the library early, so...
Are all Japanese books that thin? I mean, I know Japanese can say a lot less... can say a lot more, but uses less page space. Proportionally, but... Is that, like, accurate?
It kind of depends, because... light novels are about as thick as they generally are here when you get versions of them. The problem is if you want to get, like, manga magazines, those things are fucking massive.
Well, yeah, but that's not writing, that's art. I mean,
I'm just saying in general.
Like, just general novel length for books. Because that book that, that, Kurusu was reading from looks more like a pamphlet than a novel.
Need some light reading. Well, here's a pamphlet on great Jewish athletes.
I mean, he is reading the novel in, like, 2 days.
And this is where you find out about the nostalgic steak. And I'm like,
hey, it has steak in the title. I'm down.
Is that what they actually called it in the menu? I mean, I know restaurants in Persona Land can be a bit weird. There was that one coffee shop in Persona 3 that actually sold itself on making you more charming.
And boy, did it work.
So it's not nostalgic F steak?
I mean, if you drank coffee in the Chagall Cafe in Persona 3, every time you drank it, you would just have this feeling that people were looking at you and your charm would go up. And I don't get why that is. On the subject of the coffee shop in Persona 3, though, there is an interesting scene that I did want to bring up at one point or another, which we'll probably never see directly on this channel because it's only in Persona 3 Portable, and fuck doing that for a Let's Play. But, like, Junpei's social link in that game, you can only social link with him if you're the girl, so he takes you to the coffee shop and openly confesses that he's only taking you there specifically.
Pet peeve!
That yeah, to hell with Makoto, Kawakami's best girl now. Marry me, sensei. I tweeted that screenshot, by the way, like when I first played it. Like I liked that line so much that I took a picture of it with my phone, because they don't let you use the share button in this game, which is a pain in the ass. But I tweeted a screenshot of that, and yeah, that's like one of my biggest grammatical pet peeves is people getting that phrase wrong, because it's one that you really should know what it means. But they follow that up by asking you to actually tell her what a Japanese word means. Like, Jesus Christ, who got this question right? Kakushinhan. Is that how you pronounce that? I don't know, but I have no idea what it means.
Is it Tien's younger brother?
Kakushinhan.
Like, this one question is like is like the perfect argument for keeping a cheat sheet next to you while doing this game. But yeah. Apparently it means it actually means having strong convictions, but people somehow turned it around to mean that you know what you're doing is wrong. I'm like, how does that work? It's the opposite of its actual meaning. People are stupid. But yeah, back around to what I was saying before, Junpei has this one social link scene where he takes you, the female protagonist specifically, to the coffee shop and openly admits that he's only taking you there because he wanted to go to the coffee shop, but thought it would look weird if he went by himself. And coffee shops are kind of a date thing. Like, they're not something that guys generally go to with their guy friends. So he wanted to try the coffee there, but, you know, pestered you to go with him so that he would be able to do it without any social awkwardness.
Gotta bring a laptop, Junpei.
Bring a laptop and pretend to be studying.
Yeah.
It won't be actual studying because Junpei's thing is that he never studies.
Yeah, just pretend I'm a master writer working on a novel, you know.
Junpei's social link in Persona 3 Portable is interesting, though, because, like, he's the only male character who wasn't made into a romance choice. Like, they tooled around with that idea while they were developing Portable, but ultimately decided not to make him a romance choice because he already had this thing with Chidori in the main plot.
Oh, yeah.
He flirts with you, but you can't romance him. He's just your guy friend. And it's really interesting to see that because it's not something that you generally see all too much. And they wrote it pretty damn well too.
At least it keeps the story intact because, like, oftentimes Junpei's getting jealous of the main character. And
he sort of, it's interesting too because he is the character that gets jealous of you being made the leader, and it happens no matter what gender you are. But you know, when you're the female protagonist, he's all like, "What? But she's a girl." He says this straight to Mitsuru's face too. He's not the brightest light bulb on the shelf.
You're addressing the Queen, Mitsuru.
The train to Station Square is no longer in service.
Anyway, this guy is the Sun Confidant. And you know, he's already giving you his lines about having speeches here at night, but unfortunately, you can't actually initiate anything to do with the Sun Confidant for quite a little while. Because although Sojiro lets you outside the coffee shop at night pretty early on, he only lets you out to the Young and Jaya area. You're not actually allowed to go anywhere else until he gives you the say-so. And it's kind of telling that Kurusu sticks to this, like, no matter what the player does. Like, he doesn't want to break his word to Sojiro. It's one of the things that the game takes out of your control. And I find that interesting because it's, well, it's just something that adds a bit to Kurusu's character without actually being directly underlined. And I kind of appreciate when little gameplay details do that, but it's something that I feel a lot of games, when they try to do it too ham-handedly. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, it's time to work at a convenience store. And I just have one question to ask of the developers of this game. Why is this not a costume that I can take into battle with me? No. Look at that, it's fabulous. Fucking fabulous. I don't understand why this is called the 777 convenience store, though. Something about that design and logo makes me think more that it should be the brand name of a cigarette pack. But,
I think it's based off the amount of 7-Elevens that are found in Tokyo. So,
wait, really? That's a thing?
Yeah, because in Japan and Tokyo in particular, there are a lot of convenience stores, and they're mostly 7-Elevens, and they're basically everywhere.
I didn't know that. Huh. The more you learn. But, I don't like 7-Eleven, so I tend to block it from my mind.
It is much better in Japan.
I would hope so. But, I'm a Wawa man.
Wawa.
So, yeah.
My one true love.
Wawa is probably to New Jersey what 7-Eleven is to Japan right now, if what you're saying is true.
Or around John's house.
Well, you know, East Coast states a lot of the time. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that kind of area has Wawa and
Florida.
Wawas. Like the everything shop. They've got gas stations, they've got a really high-class deli, and they have the cheap convenience store food. Like, they have both. It's dazzling.
In Canada, I've got Max, and they got some awesome slushies.
I thought you were going to go for the stereotypical Tim Hortons.
I wouldn't call that the convenience store of Canada, but yeah. I've got like 3 Tim Hortons in my hometown, and if you go to anywhere in Canada, it's just the place you go, you know?
I haven't had a slushie in ages. I should probably do that next time I'm in Wawa. But, yeah, I whenever I go there, it's like for a big old 10-inch hoagie type sandwich, usually the hot type. Sometimes I get meatball subs. Sometimes I get buffalo chicken cheesesteak. Sometimes I just get the buffalo chicken tenders sandwich. But it's great. There's a lot of options there, and I'm kind of dazzled that it hasn't spread throughout the entire United States yet.
My dream is to, like, acquire a Wawa and then just start spreading it all across the U.S. because I guarantee you it would make so much money. The quality of food that they have.
Yeah, it's like I think I might have said this in an earlier part, but whenever someone visits a state like Pennsylvania for TMG, like whenever we have friends from across the country over for one of those events, there's always this big Wawa rush. Like they don't have Wawa in their own state and they're curious about it.
We don't.
And they really love it.
No, we don't.
It's great.
It's those cheesecake smoothies. Mmm.
They have so much there. This is turning into Persona 5 Wawa edition, so someone quick change the topic. Oh yeah, this is the part where we learn about coffee from Sojiro. It also sets up the first appearance of Futaba's uncle, who is an important part of Sojiro's confidant. Like with Detective Dojima in Persona 4, Sojiro's confidant has a lot to do with his relationship with Futaba, the way Dojima's had to do with Nanako. So, yeah, it's got the same kind of dynamic going on. But the thing about it here is that Sojiro's confidant cannot continue until Futaba is introduced in the story, past a certain point, like past like rank 5 or maybe 6, something like that. He won't do social linking with you at all once you reach a certain rank until Futaba has entered into the story and you've solved her shadow problem. The inverse of this was true with Dojima, where I think like toward the end of the game you just couldn't social link with Dojima anymore because Nanako got kidnapped. And
no, I was gonna say I've always maxed out Dojima pretty quick. The only thing that really happens in his storyline is like he has trouble bonding with Nanako. Nanako runs away, and then they get really close. But nothing gets in the way.
If you don't finish his social link by a certain time, he gets locked out.
Oh yeah,
so,
you do have to finish it by the end. But
yeah, and I was just about to get rank 10, but when I hit that deadline, I was so pissed off. Anyway, yeah. Some of Sojiro's social links get you kindness points for learning about customer service. Gaudy customer here. You can sort of tell what he actually thinks of his customers by their NPC names, but he's really nice to most of them. And basically what he tells you at the end of the scene is actually really good advice for customer service, is if you run a business, learn the personalities of your regulars.
Yeah, if nothing else, Sojiro seems like he's good at what he actually does.
Yes, he is. He is very good at what he does. Also, I don't even like coffee, but that array of coffee beans in the back there is appetizing, to say the least. And I can't even clearly see it. It's like, I look at this cafe, and I'm like, if I walked into an actual business that looked this nice, I would give them all of my money. But then you actually look at the kitchen in the back there, and it's so cramped and small, and the refrigerator has this grungy look to it. So it's like, he's doing the best he can with this small business, but it is still a small business with limited funds. I like that attention to detail. Oh, it's even got a dial phone. Are those more common in Japan than they are here? Or is that just a relic?
probably a relic.
Dial-up phones?
Yeah, a phone with a dial.
Possibly, haven't noticed.
Huh.
I'd assume it's a relic.
Yeah.
I used to have a dial phone when in the 90s, but
I don't think I've ever had one. Like, I might have seen one at my grandparents' house, but if I did, it wasn't actually hooked up to anything. It was just something that they kept around as a novelty.
I only had the corded phone.
I like the way that Sojiro is just blatantly stonewalling this guy. But anyway, cheerful middle-aged man here is Futaba's awful uncle. And in order to finish Sojiro's social link, you actually have to do a pretty atypical Mementos side quest, where Futaba asks you to change the uncle's heart, and you actually have to go into Mementos alone with Futaba to confront the guy's shadow. So it's a fairly easy solo battle with Kurusu. But that's something to be ready for. I do recommend keeping a fairly well-rounded list of personas with you at all times in all 3 of these Persona games, because the game can sometimes throw curveballs at you, and it always pays to just be able to stand up on your own if the rest of your party winds up getting knocked out for a bit. I want the ladies to love me. If only you were this obedient all the time.
I get the feeling Cruz is only saying that just to get on Sojiro's good side, at least for now.
Well, that's why I picked it, because like I said, I have a cheat sheet. But, it's just an amusing option to pick. But, yeah, Kurusu does have, a weird relationship with women throughout this game. And fuck you, Atlas. You made me have to turn someone down again because I already had a girlfriend. I hate that they always do that in these games. Well, except Persona 3, where you just date everyone because fuck decency. But,
Nice boat.
But, like, Haru, at the end of her social link, she, like, confesses that she likes you. It's always at the end of the social link, too, that this happens. But, like, there's like, one character in both 4 and 5 who is attached to you. And you can sort of sidestep it in Persona 4, because it's one of the Culture Club people. The Drama Club one.
The Drama Club one.
Yeah. Like, there's this really gut-wrenching scene after you hit rank 10. And it's after you hit rank 10, so it's like you don't have to worry that she'll screw up the social link by turning her down. But she just turns around and tells you to leave if you can't return her feelings, and I had to do it, even though it made me feel like an asshole.
I'm sorry, Chie's my girl. I gotta walk away.
That was exactly the situation I was in, actually.
Morning.
Hi, waifu number 1.
With Haru, it's like, her social link is like, at part 8 or 9, the guy that she's talking to assumes that you're together. And then she's kind of inferring that, like, well, that wouldn't be so bad. And then you just sort of have to be like, he was talking about us being good friends. Yeah. And then she just kind of walks away like, oh.
Yeah. That's kinda cruel, Kurusu, not gonna lie. I hope they don't do that in Persona 6. I hate when the game makes me do that.
Oh, they'll do it in Persona 6.
Okay. These conversations, speaking of things that make you feel like an asshole, these conversations where one of your party members walks up to you at the train station will still trigger if you haven't beaten the boss, but they'll probably involve the party member pestering you to get a move on. And it's especially painful with An if you've put off the castle boss fight, because she's just getting more and more panicky. And it happened for me because, like, with just this first boss fight, because it actually took me 3 trips into the castle to actually get to the treasure on my first time through. It probably should have only taken me 2, but I made some poor decisions as far as managing my SP went, and I wound up burning too much fuel on my first 2 trips. So, yeah. Time to work at the flower shop. I kind of like the way that Morgana ribs you about the apron this first time, but it is interesting that they let you work at the flower shop as one of your part-time jobs, because it is a bit socially atypical. But this job is probably more beneficial if you come here when you have time to work at the convenience store, because not only do you make a little bit more money on average, but you also get the kindness boosts. However, you actually do want to work both the convenience store and the and the flower shop at least one time, and I'm getting them out of the way now, because if you work them at least one time, then the moment a memento side quest says, hey, you need to work this job to get the information you need, you can just work the job once and get the information like that. Whereas, if you hadn't worked the jobs before then, you'd have to waste 2 calendar days trying to get that information. Well, it's a pain in the ass at that point.
Yeah.
Same logic applies to the beef bowl shop, but the beef bowl shop is something that you can only do at night, after you're allowed to go outside of Yongan-Jaya, so you can't actually do that yet, which is why you can't get the Sun Confidant. But the same logic applies for the Sun Confidant. You have to work there twice, and the guy will show up there on your second session at the minimum. So yeah.
All right.
Kindness up. At this point, I think I'm super kind. Like I've gone from angelic to godly.
I am Jesus.
I am literally Jesus. Wait, no, that's the protagonist of the 3rd game. I'm sorry.
I'm not quite Jesus.
Well, it's because the ultimate persona that you get from the Judgment Arcana, that's supposed to be the evolved form of Orpheus in Persona 3, is literally Messiah. And I have that as a DLC persona now. So, yeah, we'll get to see that at some point in this playthrough, although I won't be pulling Messiah out for a very long time, because he has some super overpowered abilities.
The guy in 3's just sleeping. Morgana told him to.
Oh. Oh.
Seriously,
Anyway.
without the spin-offs, you could infer that's how it ends.
Ah, jeez. Anyway, whenever you want to study at the cafe, you actually have to use the tables downstairs, not the desk upstairs like you would expect. If you want to do that, though, when there are customers in the diner, you actually have to talk to each of them to get them to go away. So, that's a bit of a pain, but you never actually want to study in the diner at all. The reason for that is, you just get more points if you go to the goddamn diner. The actual diner, not the cafe. Did I say diner instead of cafe?
Yes, you
I'm
did.
sorry. Those are 2 different things in this game. I probably shouldn't have made that mix-up. But yeah, you can study down here if you get rid of the customers, but you probably don't want to bother because the diner is better. You just have to pay a bit of yen to use it. But generally speaking, you're probably not going to have any problem with the costs of stuff like the diner or the gym or any of that stuff, as long as you just make sure to grind out a little bit of money every time you go to the dungeons or to mementos. You can usually cover that with very minimal grinding. Protein, on the other hand, can go fuck itself, because that stuff is just as expensive as it is in the real world. Fuck my life.
Yeah, so next part we'll probably be doing more just faffing about until we get the results.
Next part should hopefully actually get to the part where Kamoshida loses his mind and confesses his sins, yeah.
Yay!